Not all those who wander are lost. J.R. Tolkien. Welcome to Aegis Travel Adventures. We are Ken
and Gisele. We have been to over 100 countries and are still looking to see what is around the next corner. We love wine,
travel, and adventure. Listen to our podcast where we share the fun of the magical places, people, and cultures that have touched our lives.
Aegis,
Aegis,
travel,
travel,
adventures.
adventure.
Podcast number 11. Welcome to Aegis Travel Adventures. This is Ken.
and hi, this is Gisele.
And good morning. Today we'd like to talk to you about the last stop on our Viking cruise journey, which was one of our favorite cities in Spain and in Europe, Barcelona. And we had the opportunity, complimentary trip or excursion through Viking to do a coach tour for about 4 hours through the city. And it's kind of what we call is
Drive-bys.
drive-bys. Yeah, you sit in the coach most of the time. You might get out a couple of times to see some stuff, and the rest of the time you're driving around, and I hate to say it, with a bunch of old people, and you don't really...
Because we're not old.
Yeah, because we're not old. And because if you want to get pictures, it's pretty hard to get pictures of a lot of the stuff because it's out of a bus window and so on. Well, because we had been in Barcelona at one point for 10 straight days, we did an Airbnb, and we had probably been there 3 or 4 times as well on shorter stays. We felt like we knew what we wanted to see for our day there. Now, we actually spent the night there on the ship. So we came in, had the opportunity to get off if we wanted in the evening. We didn't do that. And we spent the night, and in the morning we got up and we headed out. Viking did provide a free shuttle that went from the cruise ship, and it went probably 1.5 miles. It's a very large port, and there's a bridge that you can walk on, and it goes way high so ships can go under it, and then it comes back down. And it's very walkable, but we planned to walk most of the day, and we felt, well, let's just take the shuttle. It drops you off at the top of the port, which is by they call the Columbus statue.
One thing about the Viking stopover in Barcelona, which is a little bit unusual on ships, because you get there and it stops the morning that you arrive in the morning in Barcelona, and then you have an all day and a night to do whatever you want, there. And then the next morning, it was the day we actually departed from the cruise line for good. So that's a little bit unusual. Usually when you get to a port on the day that you're going to depart, you're off the ship by 8 o'clock in the morning, or 9, whatever you choose. So that makes it a little nice. So if you are on a time frame and you want to see Barcelona, but you don't want to spend extra time there from the cruise, Viking gives you the opportunity for the day and a night to do whatever you want in Barcelona. We did arrive there on Palm Sunday, so goods and bads. Goods, it was Palm Sunday and the churches were ringing and there were a lot of people out and about. The bad news was a lot of things were closed, which was the case of our favorite restaurant.
And yes, we had a favorite restaurant, and just the way we had found it when we stayed there for the 10 days is there's a quite famous restaurant in Catalan called Els Quatre Gats, and in English it means 4 cats. And the reason it's famous is because during Picasso's early days, when he was in Barcelona, he had a group of fellow artists, and they used to meet at the 4 Cats restaurant, and it's in the Gothic district, or as they call Barri Gothic, which is down by the port. It's pretty close, and they have pictures of all the artists and some copies of their works and so on in the restaurant.
The restaurant opened actually on June 12th, 1897, and it's been open since. Now I'm sure there's been different owners and stuff, but they've tried to keep the credibility of the restaurant. So it's very artsy still, and there's lots of different. There's some replicas on the walls, but they also have hanging around the restaurant looks like, in my opinion, authentic sketches from a variety of different artists. And I think there's even a Picasso one. I can't swear to that, but I do know that it was known that he used to come there and would paint for his supper and or paint for his drinks. So anyway, so that's where we founded our favorite restaurant, which was closed. So we ate at the Four Cats.
And it wasn't open. The main restaurant wasn't open when we got there, but they have a little cafe in the front, and they serve desayuno, light breakfast, brunch with coffee. And so we went in and we did that, and it was excellent. And happened to be a German woman sitting next to us, and she recommended a couple of dishes. She spoke pretty good Spanish and English, so she was one of her favorite places. So we had a nice little meal, and when we finished,
Had really good sangria.
yeah, and then when we finished, we started walking around, and what we wanted to do was go look at the progress of the Sagrada Familia, which is the cathedral that Anton Gaudi started in the late 1800s, and he's the famed architect in Barcelona, and many of the architectural works that the guidebooks show you to go to are buildings he built. The Park Güell, Guell. He has lots of mosaics on walls and some buildings, and it's quite famous. And it is a park you can walk through and look. And so Gaudi and a few of his impressionist people have made a huge mark on Barcelona, but Gaudi is the main person.
So he started the Sagrada Familia
Over 100 years ago.
Yeah, over 100 years ago. And it's definitely been a work in progress. And it's kind of a hodgepodgey, at least in my opinion. I'm sure if you're a Sagrada Familia, aficionado, you're going to find that to be a not a good word to use, but to me, that's what it looks like. And it's just, it's very interesting looking. We've been there before. And it's one of those places, again, that we've talked about before. If you're going to go, you have to get tickets. You can't go there on the fly, especially Palm Sunday. The lines were around the block. The time that we did it, we literally were there all day, and which is one thing I would suggest, because the way that the church is designed and the architecture in it, it's designed to capture the light at different times of the day. So you'll go in the morning at 10, you're walking around, you have a tour, and you think, wow, this is really pretty. There's lights that look blue and green, and this is amazing. Then you go, we walked all the way to the top at the time, and then you come back down, and now it's mid-afternoon, and those lights that were red, whatever color they were, now they're bright red and orange. So the church changes dramatically. The inside of the church changes dramatically throughout the day. So it's one of those things that it's well worth it to spend the time and go visit. But we didn't do it that this time.
Yeah, we wanted to look at the outside, and the city of Barcelona is surrounded by mountains, and the big spire in the middle, there's many smaller spires on the outside that have been completed, but the big spire is the one they're still working on, and it's supposed to go just below the highest peak surrounding Barcelona, because only God could make nature. And so it's got quite a ways to go still, and to me it's interesting and amazing what they've done. Very eclectic. And while we were there and we did our tour in the past, there were adults with their children, and they were showing them statues on the outside that were people with faces, and that was them when they were children. So it was really pretty cool to see that, hear it, and so on. And it's a very eclectic cathedral. It's not like anything we've ever seen anywhere. Obviously, Gaudi put his mark on it because he was very eclectic in everything he did. But inside the columns, and it's very high up, they look like trees, almost
trees
like,
and fruit. And when you take the tour, when you do the tour through the towers, they take you up to an elevator, obviously, because you could not walk up all those stairs. And then once you get to a point, they take you along the outside of the cathedral, and you're walking basically kind of in a spiral up. And so you get really up close to some of the architecture and some of the sculptures that are up top. And it's just amazing the work that somebody has spent doing it. So again, it's one of those things that we highly suggest that if you ever get to Barcelona, it's well worth to do. And it's a wonderful day. It's a very nice day. I will say the walk from Old Town, to Sagrada Familia is what I can about how.
well, we ended up doing 22,000 steps that day, so which is the equivalent of a little over 10 miles. So it was a long day and for walking, but it was achievable. There is public transportation, and we could have done that. And of course, there's taxis everywhere. But we took our time. We stopped for lunch or breakfast, desayuno, and on the way up, we also sat around in the park surrounding Sagrada Familia. On the way back, we took a break and had a meal in a very interesting. I'm not sure what it was. Almost like a market that had many restaurants in it.
Yeah, that was really cool. That's kind of gotten to be, and as we go through Europe and different places, it's become, and they even have them here in the U.S. and we have them in Orlando. And it's a hall with different food stations, but it's not like a mall court. They're all very good restaurants. And in this one, they had some sit-down restaurants, but they also had literally a tapas bar that was quite large, and one part of it had champagne, one part had sangria, and then there was a whole ice cream bar as well.
And
so
a lot of seafood, which Barcelona's on the coast.
So we had a really interesting platter with a bunch of hams and cheeses, Spanish Iberian ham, which we've talked about, which is delicious. And we had that, and we had I think I had a sangria, and you had a beer. So it was lovely. It was very nice. And
so it broke up the 22,000 steps because we spent our time in different places, and we sat down, and so it seemed like it was a long day. We were gone pretty much all day, but on the way back we also looked at some of Gaudi's and his fellow artists, some of their eclectic buildings as well, and that's really what Barcelona is about. Is this architectural, I don't call it impressionism. It's just like something you never really seen anywhere else before. When you have fireplaces with chimneys, and on the top of them they look like helmeted heads, and lots of buildings that have mosaics on the outside with fantastical looking shaped roofs and windows and so on. And it's pretty easy if you're interested is to look up Anton Gaudi, Gaudi, and you'll see a lot of his works on the internet.
Well, according to Wikipedia, his unique approach to Art Nouveau movement is what it is called, Art Nouveau movement. At least that's what Wikipedia has. So it's real worth a time to go. And they're all over the city, and that park that Ken mentioned is just a lovely place to go and walk and sit. And there's a famous chameleon that if you see Gaudi's work, that's the first thing that one of the pieces you'll see, and that's actually in the park as well. So. And
then on our way back, we did one of our favorite things, and I think
besides finding a bar.
Yeah, we walked down La Rambla or Las Ramblas, depending on who you talk to. And it's a walking path, very wide, trees on both sides, and it goes all the way from Plaza Catalan, which is the midpoint of the city, and it goes down to the port, to the statue of Columbus. And it's probably a couple miles.
Yeah, it is. And along the walkway, it's very beautiful. Beautiful is not the word, but it's very nice, and it's touristy. But you always have those street artists that are like somebody all spray painted to look like a ghost. Or in this case, there's this guy that we've seen him there last time we were there, or someone similar to him who has an alien costume, from the movie Aliens. And I'm like, that sucker's got to be 50 pounds and heavy, and he stands there and he makes the alien pose. And so for some amount of euros, they want you that you can't go up and take a photo because then he'll go the alien mouth at you for free. You have to pay. But then like there's people that are dressed up as angels, very elaborate. I mean, this isn't just some standard street art. It could be something very similar you would see maybe in Key West.
Like mimes.
Yeah, mime. You don't see too many mimes, but it's mostly those kind of statues.
Yeah.
And then they pay to see it. A lot of restaurants. Not the place that I would eat at because I think they're just really touristy. But they've got tons of restaurants there and some
liquor, lots of beer and wine and sangria and so all the way down you'll find something of interest.
And they're always asking you to stop at their restaurant.
and of course you're adjacent to the Gothic Quarter, and so a lot of the buildings are very interesting. You walk past the Opera Performing Arts House, the market, the big market, which is with all the food, seafood, etc. So it's lots to see and do, and while you're walking. And so we ended our day going down, we call it Las Ramblas, and to the port. We got back on the shuttle and did the 1.5 miles back to the ship. And we were kind of tired, and of course, having the beverage package, we immediately went to the bar and soothed our aching bones.
Yeah, and the ship at that night had a
Flamenco.
A flamenco
but it was
show.
Sort of nouveau flamenco.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was a little bit.
traditional.
There was singers, and then there was 2 dancers that were very well. It was a little. I thought they could have done it a little differently, a little more authentic, but the crowd seemed to love it.
Yeah.
One thing, just again about Barcelona, which we've mentioned before, when you go, just be aware of your personal belongings. We had no one even attempted this time, or no one did anything, and we didn't hear any reports of pickpockets from the cruise or from people, but it was Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
But still, Barcelona is a city that's notorious for pickpocketers.
Yeah.
So just when you travel, especially if you're going to go out for the day, limit what you're bringing. As I've said before, jewelry and stuff like that.
It's unlikely you'll get mugged per se,
yeah.
but pickpockets are
Notorious.
And Rick Steves in his book and in any videos he does, you'll see often on TV, he says, in Barcelona, you will get pickpocketed. If you're not careful.
And there's a couple scams that they've done, which we've not ever experienced, but according to Rick Steves, somebody will come up and spill ketchup on you, and you're like, oh, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then as you're, just trying to get it off your shirt, or the person is wiping on you, then somebody comes and takes your thing. So if somebody comes out with ketchup and spills it on you, just walk away.
So we didn't hear of anybody on our ship or anything that happened. That was wonderful.
We had a great day.
It was a great day. We love Barcelona. But when we got off the ship the next morning, many of our people were doing our people being shipmates, doing a post extension, and they were going to stay in Barcelona for a few days. We went to the airport, got on a Vueling airplane, which is their discount airline, and we flew to Ibiza in the Balearic Islands.
And that'll be our next podcast.
That's what we'll talk about next.
So that was the end of our Viking experience. And for the most part, we had a wonderful time, and we enjoyed the cruise ship tremendously, as we've said. So when we got done with catching up on the stuff, we're going to do a recap of cruises, of what some cruises we might suggest, things, pros and cons of the ones that we have experienced. So enough of that. Now we're going to talk about our tip of the day. So Ken, what is your tip of the day?
Well, recently, looking at some of the travel information that you get on the internet, they're talking about flights, and the prices in March, went up about 6%. They were already high, but the thing that caught my attention more than anything was the fact that 70% of summer flights are already booked up. The planes are 70% full, etc. So as they typically look at what's happened in the past, 70% full is a good thing for the airlines. It's much greater than it normally would be at this time of the year. So the prices have been edging up, and everything I've read, they're saying that it's not going to go down. So if you plan to do a summer flight, I would suggest that you do it as quickly as possible and get it booked. Now, we did do some summer flights. We booked them probably 2 months ago. And we did one from New York City to Munich on Skylux, Skylux. It's kind of a discounter aggregator, not quite sure.
Warehouse, for lack of better words.
and
That's not the airline. The airline we're using is Air Iceland? Air Iceland.
Yeah.
And so that's
then-
just a resource.
But that's the resource, and you can go online and look up Skylux. And we got we felt a really good rate on business class tickets with lay flat seats from
Which I love.
New York City to Munich. And then we're going to do a cruise, and then we'll end up in Reykjavik, Iceland. Coming back, we used another outfit that's very similar called Aran, ARAN space Grant, GRANT. And they got us business class seats to New York City. So what we did is book first class tickets from Orlando to New York City round trip to get us to and from New York City. But we got a really good price on business class tickets by using these two outfits. And can't tell you what the prices are today, but I can guarantee you that, if you're flexible, because like when we booked the Munich one, we said, we could come anytime during this week or so. Didn't matter to us. And we'd be willing to go to Munich or Berlin or Prague, or if you got a really good deal, give us the city. Because trains run all over Europe all the time. So they came up with Munich. It was on the list of what we wanted to do, and we booked it.
And even booking the New York trip on ourselves, and then using the service for those, or using that agency, for lack of better words, it was still cheaper than if we'd booked it directly from Orlando to Munich, first class or business class. Yeah. So you have to play for it. When we booked the second leg, we compared Skylux and Aran Grant, and Aran had a better price. So there's pros and cons of using both. If anybody has any questions or wants some more information, you're welcome to send us a link or send us some questions on our podcast or our Instagram page, and we'll be glad to give you more details. So my tip of the day, and I'll keep it short because our podcast is getting a little long, is when you travel, look at your whatever credit card you have decided that's going to be best for your travel needs. Look at it besides the necessities about trip interruption and all that kind of stuff. But see what kind of perks they may use, that they may offer for you. For example, as we've mentioned, we use Chase Sapphire Reserve, and one of the reasons it comes with a lounge card, or called Priority Plus. There's goods and bads of that, but for the most part, you can go into any lounge and you don't have to worry. Any lounge that a Priority Plus lounge is, you don't have to worry what airline you're traveling. If you have a Delta lounge card or stuff, there's some more restrictions. So that gives you a little more flexibility. So anyway, that's my tip of the day. Just look at your credit card and see what perks they have for you while you travel.
It makes your travel a lot easier. It's never, easy traveling long distances over long periods of time. We got home 3 or 4 days ago. We're just sort of now getting up to snuff here, catching up on...
doing laundry.
Yeah, so that's our podcast for today. Thank you for listening.
We look forward to hearing from you guys, and please, we want to hear your comments, suggestions, and anything you've got to add. We would love to hear from you. And thanks for following us.
Adios.
Angels,
Ahoj.
travel,
Se mnou.
adventures.
Adventure.